Hey guys, it's air filter day today. Welcome to Great Lakes Power Stroke. This is the top of the overcomplicated Power Stroke, and here is me seeing the air filter for the first time and an oil change and some. Bottom definitely could need a nice little clean up. She'll be good to go after a nice little wash and a re-oil. That mud was actually coming in through the scoop, through the fender, probably from me sloshing through puddles. So bear that in mind if you're somebody who likes to slosh around. Keep that in mind that your right front fender might be asking for mud to come flying in. I don't see any dirtiness under here. No reason to be concerned. The inside of the filter looks pretty solid. There's some oil residue in there, but that's okay. Inside the filter looks clean. Don't see any dirt particles that have made it through the oil filter. So yeah, pretty pleased. Okay guys, I just gave it a little wipe down because I'm going to be sticking in my K&N little foam block thing that we had talked about before. So there's your part number. There's no reason to be wildly worried about the cleanliness of the inside of your airbox unless you just want to be that way. Your air filter is going to do the job in any case. However, I wanted to have it stick on well, so that's why I am going to make it nice and clean. So we made it relatively nice and clean. We're going to stick on the foam piece, and we're getting the filter washed right now. I use hot water and Dawn dish soap and let it soak for a while, and then give it a little scrub down, and then we'll oil it, and we'll put it, once it dries, we'll oil it and we'll put it back in. So thank you guys for tuning in. I will keep going on the cleaning process and show you what I do. Thank you. Bye. So after a quick direction read, it's going to sit something like that when I get the filter cleaned. I assume that it had some adhesive. I'm assuming they do that so that you can take it out and clean it, which I suppose is not a bad idea, which is something I might leave. I was thinking for a second that I might just get some adhesive in there, hold it in, but now that I'm thinking about it, I think it might be a solid idea to be able to clean that. So we are going to, I think, give it a shot as is. So it very simply just drops right in there. Not a major high-tech, piece of equipment. One thought is that hole might be letting in some heat. So we might do a little bit of, now that we have the Derringer to watch. First of all, air intake temps on this truck stay cold. I mean, it's within a couple degrees of ambient all the time. Unless you're flooring it, even going Mach 10 down the highway, you're in a couple degrees of ambient, within a couple degrees of ambient. So the intercooler works very well, and it's a very efficient intake tract. But we might try and, if I cut a little piece of UHMW and put in there to block off the heat coming in that hole, I'm wondering if that might help. I feel like it's there to allow more volume of air to come in, as well as if water is in the intake down there, to allow another direction for air to come in from higher and from more inboard of the vehicle. Good thoughts, but I'm not planning on sinking this into a lake, so might play with blocking that off and seeing if it improves air temp at all. I don't really know if it will, or measurable amount. A lot of things might directionally be an improvement, but they're not measurable. So we'll see if that's the case. But we're going to put this together as is and kind of see if we have any differences or changes. It might keep the filter a little cleaner too by blocking out dust coming in that way. So that filter had probably 12,000 miles on it. I mean, it might be a little bit long of an interval, but I don't operate in a crazy dirty environment. I mean, it's a little dirty, but it's not crazy. So we're just gonna tuck that in right now, and the filter is soaking in Dawn and hot water in the sink, and there'll be pictures in the video so you can see how I do it. This is how I've done all my vehicles. It works just fine. I see no reason to change how I do it. It has served me well. It's kept my engines clean. The only time I've ever had an issue with an aftermarket air intake is my Excursion actually had the air filter unseat itself from the intake tube. That was due to a user error. A family member, will say, not me, was being a nice guy and changed my oil on my truck because he was borrowing it. And he's one of those people who likes to use a lot of lube on, you know, parts that might interface. Well, you don't really want to use lube between something you're supposed to have not only seal but hold tight. Well, some lube got in between the rubber surface of the air filter lip and the aluminum that it clamped onto, and therefore the air filter fell off. And needless to say, my poor Excursion had literally dirt and rocks in the intake tube. God only knows what that engine ingested, and that was probably 50,000 miles ago. So she's still alive. It's a V10. It's one of the best engines ever made. It is a tank. Not too worried about it. But, you know, things happen. I mean, that was an archaic intake design in the first place. This setup using an airbox properly is far superior in every single way. Mine had kind of an archaic setup, mostly because there's not a whole lot of aftermarket support for V10s, and it sucks. I think I'm going to make my own intake setup that has its own airbox, or even take an airbox from, like, my Cummins, as in the garage here that I've changed to an SMB. My setup on the Excursion is very poor. So again, that's part number if you want to order this for your truck. I know that there was a gentleman that commented he ended up doing it with his. I should have done mine sooner, but it was one of those things. I'm a busy man. My child is sleeping right now, so I had to clean the air filter and silence. So I'm busy, and sometimes things take a back burner. I'm sure some of you guys understand that. So I haven't had any troubles with the truck. It's got about 32,000 miles now. One thing that I've been alerted to is this boot, or this hose right here, likes to fail. As well as the potential for this boot failing. And I have considered going to an aftermarket boost and charge tube setup. Excuse me, charge tube and boost tube setup. Yeah, right. This intake comes there to the front side of the turbo, into the intercooler down here. This is there to water intercooler, and right here. So this would be your boost tube, and this is the charge tube. So this is under boost, obviously, and it's just this rubber hose. So thinking very seriously about going to an aftermarket setup, or at least having it on hand if it ever failed. The other thing is, too, I know that these trucks have, not necessarily that the truck has fire issues, but this is your fuel filter right there, one of them, and all those fuel lines coming into it. Supposedly there can be issues with it. That fuel filter gets clogged up, the top can pop on this and cause fuel to spray all over, and you can imagine a fuel-fed fire fed by your fuel pump is a bad thing. So I keep very much up on my oil changes, or that too, my air filter changes. So I'm not too, god dang it, my fuel filter changes, I keep pretty on top of those. So I'm not terribly concerned, but it's something that is in the back of my mind, and honestly, and you're not really going to mitigate that kind of fire with a fire extinguisher. You're better off getting out of your truck and leaving it burn, because you're not going to put out a fuel-fed fire. If you want to try, that's you. But I mean, the sooner you can shut off the fuel pump, the better. But at that point, there's going to be so much fuel in here, it's just ridiculous. So something to be cognizant of. I'm sure it can happen to any vehicle. I mean, there's been a lot of fuel-fed fires lately. Everybody can go into high-pressure fuel systems and more filtration. Anytime you have all these connections, see all those connections right there, the three of them, you're going to have a pressure line going to CP3. You're going to have one coming from the tank, and then I'm sure return. One of those is a return. So, actually, I'm assuming without checking, I'm going to bet that return is coming from the CP3 and goes back into the filter to get used again instead of sending it all the way to the tank. But I might be wrong, just a guess. So, yeah, I haven't had any issue. The Derringer is still, I mean, I guess I haven't really looked into this. Looks like my zip tie might have popped off. I had a zip tie chilling up here. It must have popped off. So I guess I'll take a look at that. We don't want to have this line get frayed because this is my Derringer. This is our map sensor fooler, if you want. And the Derringer is still locked in here okay. Let's see, that's still locked up. That's still locked up. So I'm gonna re-zip tie this. Oh, you know what? Those sons of guns probably cut it when they changed my fuel filter housing. That's annoying. Well, I have zip ties handy. I'm gonna re-zip tie it right now because I don't like that. So thank you everyone for tuning in. I know me talking could go on endlessly, and I apologize. I'm just trying to do my best informing, because if I was trying to buy a truck, and I know I searched and watched a lot of YouTube videos when I bought my truck, and this water poured last night, so I'm sure it's just condensation and stuff. It's been very humid. Our fog was insane last night. So I apologize for long-winded. I appreciate you guys being around, and I appreciate you guys tuning in, and hopefully that you're learning something and seeing what it's like to own the truck. I really enjoy it. Haven't had any trouble, and hopefully we'll keep with that because I don't want to have any trouble. So thank you all. Thanks for tuning in. Great Lakes Power Stroke out.